And really the only way around this thing is for the bridge authority to refinance the bridge to have this. I'll defend them a little bit that they can't arbitrarily change the price because they promised the bondholders. But then again,
they shouldn't have built it to begin with.
If you don't have people coming on your bridge, the bondholders aren't going to like you anyhow. But I like some of the comments. One person wrote, "I try to avoid it at all cost. I won't use it if it's $4 one way. That's a lot of money to cross a bridge. I don't see why it's necessary for anyone to charge that much to use the bridge. I still have no idea why they increased it since the traffic has been down." See, now that's somebody who gets it. Your traffic count is lower, but yet you still raise it again. It's just not good business sense, another writer put in. If they lowered the toll, more people will use it. And I will tell you, I agree with that 100%. If the toll goes up to $4, people will stop using it. And actually, it's already been reported in some of the media that they're fixing to take a serious hit on trips per day when it goes to $4. I think that's kind of the tipping point for folks.
Yeah.
Another person writes, $3.50 is just ridiculous. The figure for that bridge is outrageous. They need to lower it to a decent rate. That way people will actually use it. And then finally, I go up there all the time to Gulf Breeze, and it's ridiculous to go there. I saw a guy pulling a trailer, and I think he broke a $100 bill because he had so many axles to pay for. So there's no doubt about it, folks. I feel your pain. I didn't agree with the building of the bridge to start out with. We knew early on that it started on a piece of property that Bo Johnson owned, and it ended right in front of the Walmart that magically showed up after the fact. And I don't think there's ever has been a legitimate need.
There was quite a bit of environmental damage that was done with that bridge.
You know, I think if they made it $3 for a two-way trip, they'd have people standing on top of themselves.
I don't agree. I think it'd have to go down to $1.50.
$1 each way. But it was interesting, and I just want to say I appreciate the Press Gazette for doing that, because I really enjoy listening to what people have to say about topics. Yes. Now, back to the Republican Party, the state folks embarrassing me a little bit, and we want to report to you that if you hadn't seen it already, that Governor Charlie Crist, who has been a Republican for many years, he has switched to, he's going to run as an independent. Prior to him switching Marco Rubio versus Charlie Crist, it was about 60-40 in the polls. Since he has switched to an independent, the polls are showing Charlie Crist at 38 and Marco Rubio at 34%. But some of the things that the state party has done here, whether I like or dislike Charlie Crist, they are embarrassing themselves right now. For goodness sakes, recently, ladies and gentlemen, they took a painting of Charlie Crist and they put it on eBay, and I just think it's childish, and I really think I have to believe, and this was from the St. Petersburg Times. Charlie Crist said, "I think it's sad. I think it indicates part of the problem we have in politics today, this constant bickering and attacking. I think it sickens the people, and we need to do better than that." The interesting part of this was some of the Democratic Party pollsters. Some observers say the attacks could actually help Charlie Crist, bolstering his argument that he puts people above politics. And the Republican Party of Florida may dislike Charlie Crist, but its attacks are helping his campaign, said Democratic strategist Chris Hand of Jacksonville. Crist's game plan is to be seen as an independent leader rising above partisan politics for the good of the state. Every time his former party attacks him, it makes him seem more independent. So, you know, the folks in the Democratic Party understand, you know, how ridiculous that all is. And you know, whichever way you're going to vote, ladies and gentlemen, I am personally sick of it. I don't want to hear all of this. I don't like the color of your dog and things of that nature. We got some problems in this state. Unemployment is still a problem.
Sure.
I don't think we are, and I'm not an advocate of more money solves a problem. I think we're putting money in the wrong places when it comes to education. Deborah and I both certainly agree that you need to wad up everything involved in the FCAT and throw it away, and get back to teaching kids history, science, math, and English, and call it a day.
Yeah.
And have physical education and arts to fill in the rest of it.
But our legislators aren't interested in that stuff. This has been a very destructive legislative session this year.
It's been horrible.
And if you look at what they've done, they've come out with these ridiculous things like the school prayer. I mean, just stuff that's irrelevant, really. And there's almost no sign of any kind of engaged interest in the actual main problems of the state of Florida,
exactly.
Because they've been so concerned with this other ridiculous stuff.
Well, look, and look, I also, as an advocate of the Sunshine Law, I mean, the First Amendment foundation of the state of Florida spends the entire legislative session staying on guard for additional exemptions that get slipped in. And look, folks, it's Friday afternoon at 4:30 and a big stack of paper gets slid into the bottom, and on Monday morning there's zero discussion and they're voting on something. The Florida legislature has got to change the way it does business for the people of the state of Florida.
Or you've got to change the people who are in the Florida legislature.
Exactly. We have some very serious things in this state, ladies and gentlemen, and I am tired. I don't care for Democrats, Republicans, Independents. I do not care. Let's focus what's on important. Let's focus on a better standard of living for the people in Florida. Something besides a $7 an hour job bringing drinks to drunk tourists.
Or guarding prisoners.
Or guarding prisoners. We can do better than that. We need to be looking at industry coming into this state. We need to be working on lowering workers' compensation rates so that we can compete with Alabama. One of the great hidden things that nobody wants to talk about is one of the reasons that we have trouble competing with some of our neighboring states is because of our workmen's compensation.
Well, one of the things that people look to is roads, schools, infrastructure, and you know what? We've got millions of dollars that are going to these ridiculous economic development agencies.
Yep.
There are no jobs that are coming out of it. Why is the money still going there instead of going to the infrastructure that brings people in?
Absolutely.
That makes it a nice place to live where somebody wants to come down here and settle.
It is when you have a inviting community, the companies with the jobs will come to visit you.
And a good school system.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have enjoyed our yakking today. And